What's up, everybody? It's Steph the Pharaoh. I'm here again with another episode of the Luxic Vue podcast. Today, I have Alex Burgos, owner of Burgos Tile here in Porterville, California. I'm excited, but we're here today at Alex's house. He has quite the fascinating backyard. I wish I had a camera crew so we can get this because it's like nice. I'm sure you have some great setups, but nonetheless, I wanted to bring Alex on the podcast today to mainly go over and talk about his business, things that he's doing, out here in Porterville, and kind of get his story, just how this all came about, because everything comes from an idea. And for me personally, I like to engage with people and kind of understand where and how they got started, because for me, I think that's what life is all about. It's that pursuit of happiness in a way,
Yeah,
But Alex, it's been a pleasure, man. Thank you for making the time to come out today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks for having me.
So I kind of want to go back and start from the beginning. I mean, I know you're active on social media. That's actually how you and we got, we actually met on social media. And there were a few things that you had told me. I mean, I think you had we were going back and forth on stories and stuff about a year ago, I remember.
Different philosophies that we believe in and stuff.
Exactly.
I think that's what it had to do with. We were talking about how just a deeper way of thinking on how things, how life is, right?
Yeah. And, that was probably for me an eye-opener, because I don't really, at that time, I wasn't really engaging with too many business owners, things like that. But I started to realize in this world, you have to connect with almost everybody. I've done sales for a very long time. And I think one thing I wish I would have gone back and did was keep everybody's name and number and just kind of keep not a pipeline, but keep a database.
Keep contact with certain people, yeah.
Yeah.
And I always tell people you're not the same person you were, let's say, last year, right?
100%.
So anyone that thinks they know someone from let's say a year or two ago, they could have been changing over time. We all evolve with time based on our environments, right?
Yeah.
Or exactly. What we start to believe in, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it was just cool in that moment for me to kind of be like, hey, I mean, at that time, I think I was posting a lot of just random, and people would say you're pushing the envelope because I have a decent, I mean, not a huge audience, but people pay attention. And in that moment, I was trying to figure out, am I just going to step on toes and say things that I believe in and I'm passionate about, or am I just going to not say anything? And that's when I was just I'm just going to talk and say it. And if just
be who you are.
Exactly.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we all have to share our views and express that's how some people express themselves, So at the end of the day, I'm a believer in sometimes I tell people I'll be ranting and I'm talking to actually myself. So a lot of people will be like, what? Who are you talking to? I'll be ranting, posting a video, but in a sense, I'm speaking to the universe, and the universe is talking back to me, But if somebody likes what I have to share, then take it with a grain of salt, Don't be offended by what I say, because a lot of the stuff I talk about is just what's kind of what goes on, and I like to study human behavior, I guess you get, and sometimes I'm ranting about how certain people behave. They're either doing certain things or they're not doing the right thing. I'm just why are people like that? So.
Well, especially I would say in your line of work, in the business world, you have employees. You
having to deal with people. Dealing with people is what we do, right? That's
exactly.
The business we're in.
And I mean, it goes, I would say, in all spectrums of just life in general. From what I'm realizing now, I wish that I would have paid more attention to finer details in every area versus just all in work in the very beginning. That's what I used to do, just focus all in work. And what I mean by that is focusing all my time and energy in that one area, but not developing my outside life outside of work, family, friends, communication, things like that. I was just so dead focused. But yeah, I mean, aside from that, I was actually thinking about this today, how the conversation sparked between you and I, and again, how we were talking about different ideas, philosophies. And I was like, man, that's actually really cool, And then you were encouraging me more recently, I would say in August, to just get started on Airbnb, because for me, I was overthinking things. I wanted everything to be...
Yeah, a lot of us tend to do that sometimes, and I'm just just do it, like Nike. A lot of times we get stuck in our own thoughts, and instead of just taking action and just moving forward. And I get caught up with not sometimes thinking big enough, and we all do that. I mean, we're all just in a sense of operating in a sense of like, what if?
Mm-hmm.
But more if we start to think about like, what if we don't? If we start switching our thoughts and like, it's not what if, it's what if we don't, and that's kind of where the I call it like it's like a different type of fear that kicks in. It's like I've always liked to observe people that are a lot older than me and just watch and observe and find out what is it that they're doing that they should have or could have done. And I always talk about the old man in the rocking chair, you know, and it scares me, you know, because we're eventually going to get to that point, and it's like, did we do enough? And that's where the whole, you know, the youth and taking all the risks now is going to come to play.
Now, I want to capitalize on the idea really quick before we go forward of thinking big enough, right? When I just got here, you were telling me on your grand vision for all of the land you have back and right behind us.
Oh, okay.
And that just goes to show, like, you know, you're 100% telling the truth in what you're talking about. It's just like, you were just telling me that like not long ago, like, this is my vision. Like, I want to try to think bigger. I'm talking to people just about development.
Yeah.
And did you always have that, like, early on, like that ability to not only like take advantage of the present moment and take action, but were you always thinking, you know, I have this idea of like this business, like the way that you have it set up now?
I've always looked at, like I've said, I like to observe people that have done it, and I've always thought to myself, like, if that guy can do it, why can't I? Kind of thing. Like, there's always some abilities that somebody might have that's in a sense better than you are, or things that you can be better at, or they're better at certain things. But every person is just a human being. So at the end of the day, it's like, who's going to want to put in the work? So I've always looked at, like, I guess in a sense of relationship building, like, get around those people more. They're the ones that are going to help us build. You know, at the end of the day, it's not necessarily going to be you, but just connecting with those people. And I've always tried to be around certain people, and that's kind of what's helped me over the years, is like just connecting with certain people and fishing for an idea that or a problem that they know they've already gotten into, and then kind of getting the information from them. It's like kind of not, you know, reinventing the wheel.
Okay.
But I mean, everybody experiences growth at a different speed, just based on, you know, how aggressive they are, of course. So.
Now, what sparked like the idea for you to jump in? I guess you would call it like the construction industry. Was it? I mean, I don't want to say home renovation, because you not only do installs, your company.
So, I have a funny story, because what happened with me is I never did installs. So now that I look back, it was a big mistake. When I first started the company back in 2006, 2007, 2008, the reason I say 2006 is because it took a while to kind of, the seed was planted in the end of 2006, and then 2007, I was mobile out of the trunk of my car, or we had a truck, and I was just mobile. So I wasn't in an actual storefront yet.
Okay.
So all these years, not until COVID 2020 did I start doing installs. So what we would do is, we were never an installation company, we were just sales. So when I started working in the shop, I was just a sales guy. So I was just selling product, and I would sell to the contractor and the public. And then over the years, obviously these people that were buying the product, they needed somebody to do the install. So we would randomly pick people that we knew were trustworthy, and we would give them the gigs.
Okay.
So I went over 10 years handing out tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars for free.
Just leaving it on the table, basically.
All of it.
Wow.
So what was funny was I didn't want to get into it. I always thought it was a headache. I always said, oh, installs is a headache, people.
I'm sure labor, workman's comp,
all that.
Right?
I just didn't want any part of it. So we finally got to the point where, when 2020 COVID hit, that was the first time I felt scared. That was the first time I said, something's going to happen. Something's going to crash. So I already had a lot to lose then. But by then, I've already been in business for so many years. I've built some assets, and I've done a lot of work.
Yeah.
So all that work that I put in, I felt like it was easy to get taken away. So I started brainstorming of what other, besides in the real estate, I do the rental business, and I'm in I do a little bit of real estate activity, not super involved, but I do a little bit. And I said, what am I going to do? So I said, okay, I have the business and the real estate that I own, but there has to be something else because shit might hit the fan.
Yeah.
And it was funny because it was in April of 2020. So I started even learning stocks. I was like, maybe I need to get into the stock market game.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't know what to do because I was like, we were all in a world of like
uncertainty.
Uncertainty. We weren't sure. So then I sat back in my backyard and I was going back there. And I always tell friends that I felt like I was Pablo Escobar in that meme where he's just sitting there
contemplating life.
Yeah, he's just contemplating life. I was like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And I got scared, sure enough, but it was a good fear. It was the fear I've always needed.
Like pressure in a way?
Pressure, and I loved it,
okay.
And I ate it because I was like, this is what I needed. I needed this type of fear. I needed this fire. And so I started thinking, I said, okay, what am I doing wrong? And when I said that, the light bulb turned on.
It's interesting that you say that because I came across, and we'll pick back up right now, but I came across, I think it was a post, I forgot the gentleman's name, but he was basically saying that same thing. Sit with yourself and ask yourself what the real problem actually is, and give yourself time to just think, and you'll come up with a solution.
Yeah.
And that's interesting that you say that. But as you were describing that story to me, I'm over here also not only listening but reliving that same fear that I had, because my story's a bit different, but I feel like 2020, the whole virus and everything, I feel like it put a lot of people in that fight or flight mode.
Mm-hmm.
Like
they cornered them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like we take off all the training wheels now, and we like really see what's going on.
So during that whole episode, I was already tinkering with going and we were still entertaining the same guys, but then now we were bidding the projects for them,
mm-hmm.
and we took more control over the gigs in the sense of they're still making the same amount of money they've always made, so they're super happy, so they're making top dollar, but we're in control over the project in the sense of like, doing the follow-up and meeting with the clients and kind of going over schematics of what's going to occur,
mm-hmm.
We're the architects of the project, and then in a sense we pass the project down to them and they take over.
So you have a team that designs?
We do.
Okay.
Like we do have like our sales team, inside sales, they're designers.
Oh, okay.
So they're good at putting orders together. So they're good at envisioning,
color coding,
color coding and putting it all together for the client. And then we put it all on paper for the contractor.
I see.
And then the contractor takes over and does the job. But 2020, I was jumping in on the whole meme stock thing too, and like following this whole crowd of stock trading. I was doing a little bit of that, and I lost money there, and I got money back, and it was just like a back and forth motion. But I really didn't know what I was doing then, and I even hired a coach because I thought that maybe I was going to get into day trading. So I got a little bit of that in me. It was a good experience. I still trade a little, so I learned a lot about the stock market that I never knew anything of. Like they didn't teach that in high school, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff, So I'm big on sales and just bettering myself as a person to become the best salesperson, the best human being that I could possibly be. That's my whole thing. I wake up every day.
Right?
What's that?
In I would say our line of work, because I've been in sales for like the last 10 years, and
being good people.
I've realized you could have a sales script that general that'll get you from A to Z, but you got to be able to engage and
be yourself and be interested, so then that way you can become interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of us think that we're supposed to be a certain way or follow a script. And you do have to follow a script if you're making cold calls, because you kind of want to stay on a certain peg with what you're trying to accomplish. you're trying to, maneuver the deal to, like, so they can open up a trust. But when you're out there grinding, making sales in any type of like service or product, it's more in sense of building relationship.
Exactly.
How can I build a relationship with this person, and how can I get them to feel that it's going to be a win-win for both of us.
100%. Now, let me ask you something. Have you always been interested in like life and philosophies the way that you are now, like I would say?
You know what's funny is over the years, I've noticed that I've gotten more calm. I'm a super calm person now. Like I used to not be that, and it's made me better though, being calm. Like I'm able to be in a situation. It can be a really bad situation, or it can be a good situation, and just stay super calm. And it's one of my, I guess, everybody has like a secret ability.
Yeah.
That's one of my secret abilities. Like a fire can break out right here, and I'll guide you and say, hey, relax. The door's that way. Let's move this way. I won't freak out. Or somebody can be pointing the gun at us, and I'll tell them, hey, please drop the weapon. don't shoot us.
Calm and composed.
I know how to calm people down. Like,
okay.
And it's something that was, I believe, learned from just being in so many scenarios of like people, let's say, someone upset over something, or someone's trying to figure something out.
Okay.
So I've always learned that every time I was the calmest one in the room, I would always win. And that's one of my abilities that I tell everybody is like, if you want to get good, learn how to practice being super calm. Because you can listen on a different vibration when you're calmer than everyone else. Because in a sense, you're not letting whatever problems in front of you bother you. And then you're able to see it from a different perspective, not just the perspective that you want to see it in.
That's true. That's true. As you were saying this, I feel like I've been running on high gear like this last week, right?
Yeah.
In my own zone, just getting work done. I mean, I know you know how that goes. But I could just feel like you have a really, really peaceful aura, that you give off. Like I could just feel that. So I'm sure when customers and clients and people interact with you, they're just like, they feel
and it's helped me.
Yeah,
it's helped me because I'm able to like go into a situation and I know the end result. Like I can see it before it even like occurs. And it takes time. I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to get to that ability. It's just a matter of like knowing that there's a cycle. And if you go through the cycle, knowing where you're at in it. If you're in a cycle with someone, like I call it a sales cycle, you know where you're at in the cycle, then you know where you need to follow through to be the next step.
I agree with that, 100%.
And that's kind of what I've learned is I've learned that we operate on cycles. And sometimes I teach my staff that, and they're just like, okay, they get it now. And they, I coach them and teach them, how to be, attitude. Me and you talk about attitude all the time. Remember I told you make a video on attitude.
Yeah. I made a
awesome.
podcast on it. This was during the time I just did a few like just stuff from the heart, really, just talking. I feel like I get the most value for myself, and half the time I listen to my podcast, I'm like, dang, I was talking to me in that moment,
Exactly.
But you had told me like, hey, do a video on attitude. And that was something at that time that was high on my mind, because you can have a million things on your plate, but it's how you're acting in, with those that are around you.
Exactly.
And in that moment, I'm not sure 100% what in your business or what things were going on, but what sparked that, like, hey, do something on attitude?
Just because I've been around a lot of people where I'm just like, man, this person has talent and this person could be great, but if they were to just fix their damn attitude, that's all it is. I've seen them like where this person can like go places and stuff, but they have this thing that they allow other things or other energies bother them. And they don't understand that those other people have something that like it's like a personal problem. So you can't take that with you and then let it like contaminate you,
100%.
because that person is going through some issues, and that's another thing, is being able to like understand that about people. Like I'll be at a bank, and I was at a bank today, and I can tell the teller was having a bad day, and I mean I was quiet because I wasn't sure, if maybe me saying something kind or something was going to help. But I look at her and I was like, Hutchinson, are you related to Vanessa Hutchinson? And she started laughing. She said, no, everybody tells me that. And I said, you know what? I don't remember what actor it was, but I know you've been on some type of show or movie. And then she started laughing. No, it's not me. It's not me. But it was just, I just did something to break the ice,
Right.
just trying to be good people. And
Probably so tense in that moment,
oh
right?
man, no, I changed the whole energy vibe of that whole bank. It seemed like after that, I made her laugh. Everybody all of a sudden, like a new wave of energy went in through that bank. And when I was walking, she was so happy that I just made her feel like good.
Mm-hmm.
I made her. She was so tense, like I don't want to say she hated her job, but she had that feel of like, why am I here? It's like And I just reminded her that we're blessed to be alive. It's just, and it's just weird because a lot of times we as people that, like me and you, that know about attitude and know about vibration, we should share it more and give it to people because they need our energy so they can have good days.
And it's a ripple effect at the end of the day too. Like you did that for her. Imagine in that state of mind for her later on.
Oh, she's gonna definitely go to her husband and say, "This guy walked in and I mean, I wasn't doing it in a way where we're trying to hit on
You just
them.
brightened up her day.
I'm just brightening up someone's day.
Just engagement is what it comes down to. That
yeah, and it was an icebreaker, and then we did the I asked her what I needed, and she did it, and that was the end of the day, and she made her day, and I walked away, and that was the end of that. But I like to crack jokes. I like to just use a little humor. Everybody that's what life's all about, is being happy, right?
100%.
We shouldn't be so serious all the time. If you kind of walk down the street and you notice that sometimes people, they won't look at people in the eyes, and you're wondering, like,
what are you hiding, right?
Like, I don't know what it is, but they're looking down, and we as society are getting brought up to be that way. We're like, I purposely will look at you when I'm walking down the street, and I'll try to say something to you, and I don't even know you. You're a stranger. And I sound like a dork or a nerd, but
they're like, who's this guy?
Yeah, because I always go, hello. That's just me. I'm like, hello. Like, I'm wanting to, just lighten people up a little bit, because people forget that there is no repeat. This is only going to happen once. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I felt that in a different way. It was just like, wow, like, you're right. 110%. There is no do-over. We're in 2022. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
2022.
2022.
Shoot. Now,
time's flying.
You're telling me.
And I'm losing my hair.
Shoot, we all deteriorate in crazy ways. Shoot. I feel
That's
like
funny.
this 2021 tested me physically, emotionally. And I say physically because, like, I've been healthy all my life. I've never really had too much going on. I've been blessed that.
I know. I've seen that you're vegetarian.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's
it's good.
Going. It's
that takes a lot of discipline.
It's like
too.
2.5 years too. Yeah.
Is it discipline, or is it you really like the food?
So in the beginning, it was discipline.
Oh, was it? And then you just got used to it.
Yeah. So my last relationship, it was an idea that got brought up, and in that moment when it got brought up, we had just started dating, and I'm like, "You're crazy. you're crazy." When you're presented with information that's like challenging what you believe to be true, right? It's cognitive dissonance. It just challenges everything that you have experienced. So it's like in that moment, I didn't think it was possible for me. I grew up eating barbecue, steak, tri-tip, chicken, asada. Still to this day, like my family barbecues, and I just tell them, hey, don't worry about me. Like I'll get it figured out. But in that moment, for me, that's what it was. It was like, you're crazy.
Yeah.
It wasn't up until new alternatives to food were being presented to me in different ways. So I was thinking in terms of like beans for protein and things like that. It did take a full year to get used to substituting things out. I will say that. And then after that, I made the conscious decision like, hey, I'm going to rethink like how I consume food. Like, I'm just gonna go all in, and I'm gonna go. And so I'm actually vegan, so I don't do any dairy either. Some backstory on that: I'm lactose naturally, so really the only thing that I had to give up was meat of any
Oh,
kind.
okay. Cool.
Because I would say for like, my early 20s, from like 20 to 24, I realized like I really can't be doing milk anymore and cheese and things
Yeah.
like that. So I kind of started tailoring away. But yeah, I would say in the beginning it was discipline. Now I just don't even crave it. It's just like anything else. Like
Yeah.
if you've ever given up soda, I would say, because I've done that too. But yeah, discipline really is what it
You're
comes down
able to be a lot healthier too.
True, yeah. And, last year, just to kind of talk about that again, I actually was presented with what the doctors thought was a hernia for like the last 4 or 5 months. So I actually still haven't been to the gym. I've been kind of doing workouts here and there. But man, I'll tell you, I will say that during that time, all of my life to me was like questioned. I know I'm doing well in other areas, but I was like, what's life if you're not healthy and you can't move and you can't like lift anything?
Yeah, I started off the year with a bang. I was going to the gym, and then this last week I got a really bad cold, and I was sick for a few days, and then now I'm getting over it, and I'm just like, okay, I'm back. I need to go back. But since we never know how our health can play different roles in our lives, and you think you're always going to be healthy, you think you're always going to be, like in a feel good, but
Right.
it can change really fast. So you have to take care of yourself for sure.
Heck yeah. And that's what, that was a big eye opener for me, because I actually couldn't move. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeesh.
it was just very interesting. So I've been very grateful, very blessed. I've been, giving thanks and saying my prayers every morning. Like, hey, I'm
Good.
grateful for this, this, and this. I know that I probably got a million things that are wrong, but I'm going to focus on what's right.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to go back and ask you a little bit. So you like to connect with a lot of people, and that's not a skill I feel like everybody has, or an attribute, I will say. But for you, like, is that something you developed? Because for me in high school, like, I wouldn't have been able to do an interview like this. I wouldn't have been able to be in sales, I think, personally, because not only did I not really believe in myself to that extent, but I didn't really like putting myself out there. Might have been like, maybe call it a social anxiety. I don't want to put too many labels on it, but in that moment, I just didn't like to be the face of anything. I didn't want to be seen. I was like behind the scenes type
You're
thing.
more introvert. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always been extrovert in a sense, but for me, it was more of like a survival thing where I had tried to accomplish goals in school, and I noticed that I would always fail, and I was always good at, communicating myself to people, but not writing things down in a sense of being able to, like, I guess, be good test taker. Or
Okay.
I come from, I guess, self-diagnosis. I have the ADHD or whatever.
Really?
So, yeah. So it's worked as a blessing in disguise because I'm able to hyper focus on things that I need to get done and take more action sometimes than what the norm would do. So some people want to stop at a certain hour. I want to keep going, and I'm still
Till it's
on,
finished?
yeah,
right?
till it's finished. So I've done, both. I'm a big procrastinator, but I'm also that when there's something due, I'm also able to put in that extra time to get it done, or put more people involved in the project to get it done.
Okay.
So I've been good at that. I'm very resourceful. That's one of my abilities. I'm good at getting people to act. I work off of, I guess you can say, urgency, and that's always been.
You're good at creating urgency.
Yeah. I create urgency, and I'm able to get things in a sense of like figuring them out. But like when somebody will tell me something like, no, because of this, then I like to hear no. I like to tell people, like when someone tells me it can't be done, it's like, those kind of people,
Yeah.
I get a kick out of it because then I start looking for ways to show them how it can be done. And so that's been always my abilities. And so when I was going to school, I was studying to be a registered nurse.
Okay. Here at
Portable High School, or not Portable High School. I graduated from Strathmore High School.
Oh, okay.
And then I went to Portable College. But I wasn't able to get all my prereqs done. I wasn't good in math, so there was a chemistry and math that I wasn't able to get to. I wasn't able to pass, and I was easily distracted by the girls at that time, college,
Yeah.
So it was I just couldn't finish the work,
Yeah.
they'd assign homework and I wouldn't do the essays, and I just said, you know what, school's not for me. I'm a business guy. I started figuring myself who I really was. I was a business guy, I thought. And I worked for Walmart distribution back in 2002. And then I went into the mortgage industry. I was working as a loan officer.
Okay.
So I worked for a couple big companies, and I used to be a loan officer. So I did that. And then I got introduced into the tile world from, I was also operating a little side gig doing, it was a business called Blue Water Mobile Car Wash. So that was my first taste of being self-employed, you know?
Okay.
So I used to detail cars. And while I was detailing the cars, I was also a loan officer. Coming off of that, sold the Blue Water Mobile Car Wash business at par. I sold it not at a loss, but I just sold it for what I paid for it.
Yeah.
Got all of the equipment, and then I was able to meet somebody when I was running that mobile detail business. I was able to meet this individual that had a car lot. He was a really small family-owned car lot, and he was involved in a lot of different enterprises. But this guy was in a world of hurt because he was experiencing the 2007, 2008 crash because he already had a lot. So I didn't have anything at that time. So to me, having nothing meant like you can't lose, you know, because when you are naked and you're already like,
It's
don't
like,
have
what's the
nothing,
worst that can happen?
nothing
Right?
can happen, right? You're starting from the bottom. So
yeah.
he had a rack of tile, and I was able to ask him a few questions like what that was all about. And he said it was a new business venture that never took off. So I looked at it, and my light bulb turned on, because I said, you know what, this is a good idea, because in a sense, after talking to him a little bit about it, he told me there was no stock involved. And I said, well, where's all the, you know, tens of thousands of dollars of stock? And he said, it's with the distributor. So that's when another light bulb turned on. And I said, okay, so I can start with samples and kind of work my way up until I can get stock. And he goes, yeah. And that's how it all started.
Oh, stock of the tile, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you didn't have any stock, why wouldn't you care having the few samples in the back of your truck?
I see what you're saying. So were you connected, or did you get connected with like multiple distributors?
Yeah, so I started connecting myself.
Okay.
So I was making the phone calls. Google's your best friend, you know?
Doing all the legwork.
Yeah, I did all the legwork.
Wow.
But you know what's funny? I did experience a lot of like backlash, negativity towards these big companies, because they knew you were a small guy, and they were just bullying you because they're like, where's your showroom? So I had to do the whole thing where I told them I had a showroom here, and I didn't. You know, it was like a back of a garage, and they'd show up and they would close me down. And guess what that would do?
Who would show up? The city?
I'll tell you one company. They're global. They're worldwide. Inner Ceramic. They left this, like, this, I guess you could say like this. How would you call it? It's
like a chip on your shoulder? Or?
Yeah, like it got me pissed because they closed me down. Like they closed down my account. So I was able to like feel this like oh, it's game on now.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like okay, you're against me. Type thing.
When you're against me, I'm gonna eat you alive. That's how I've always operated.
Okay.
Like when you don't like me, I'm just like, in a sense, I feel like you are my motivator. Like I've always told someone, like, I'm the guy that you wouldn't want to like. Like if you don't like me, I will laugh at the person that doesn't like me, because in a sense I get a kick out of it. I do the exact opposite of what most normal people would do. Like most normal people are like, oh, he doesn't like me. I actually laugh. I feel like, it gives me a good feel.
Yeah.
Because I know that I'm winning. That's how I've always felt.
Now, did you always have that mindset? Like growing up?
Yes.
What would you say that maybe sparked that in you? Like, can you identify? Like where you
it came from, like, in a sense of like not being a good student, I guess. And at that time, if you weren't a good student, then you were the bad guy, right?
And the teachers would probably tell you like,
yeah, you're gonna be nobody.
I can't believe
I had this guy. Check this out, Mr. Sizemore, wherever you're at. I'm a multimillionaire, you know. I'm like going telling him, and he told me that I was gonna land myself in jail or prison or something.
Seriously?
I swear on everything.
How old were you?
I was a kid. I was like 17, 16 years old. I was working at a school. And I remember him telling me that, but I'm pretty sure he thought that because of like our environment, all the people that we'd hang out. You know, there was a lot of like just bunch of riffraff, you know,
Yeah,
running around
yeah.
Strathmore, Plainview. You know,
Yeah.
we didn't know because we were just. It was like, just that's all we knew. We didn't know it was something was bad about, you know. Well, we just grew up hard, you know. But I mean, it was
Like in the streets. Like
yeah, it was just a bunch of hoodlums, and we didn't know we were hoodlums, you know, because we were just being kids, you know.
shoot.
We weren't bad. I mean, we were just street kids.
I mean, that's kind of how I grew up right here down the road. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, Porterville was like, I mean, not my stomping grounds, but like I was skateboarding everywhere
Yeah.
and naturally.
You were a bad kid to everybody.
yeah.
Everybody thought
we
you
got
were
kicked out of places, you know.
Yeah. We're
And
just-
I was probably, I think it was just growing up. I grew up like over here on the east side of Porterville.
yeah.
And it's interesting now because like a lot of friends that I keep up with, they're like, yeah, you came from middle class, but like I didn't see it that way because my parents made me hustle and grind for everything I've ever had. Like
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my
Exactly.
mouth. You
My
know?
parents did me right where they wouldn't give me any money. When we got older, we noticed that our parents, you know, they started their own business. They started a childcare business, and my sisters got what we didn't get, you know, because my parents started doing better in life,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
good, you know, good for them.
I mean, it was kind of
But
the same
it taught
here.
us,
Like
it taught us like the school of hard knocks, you know, of like, you know, there wasn't never no lunch money. Like I was having to hustle people at school for the lunch money.
I didn't have
In a good way. In a good
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
We'd play games of like, hey, flip a coin, or I was out selling. At that time, they had a what they call a burnt CD, where you would burn music on a CD.
Okay.
My brother was the genius behind the
Putting the
computers and
music
putting
and-
it together, and I was the one taking orders.
Wow.
So I used to do that. It was fun.
Dang.
It was fun.
I mean, I had couple little things. It's funny because like back in high school, like same, my parents didn't give me money, but my mom's over here working at the state hospital, you know, and my brothers and sisters had, you know, money and stuff like that. But for me, I just got creative. Like there were times where I would like not fully fight people, but you know, kids, young
Yeah.
men, they play body shots where it's like, all right, don't hit in the face, but we'll fight for like 2-3 minutes. So I was doing that to get money. Like
No
I'd be
way.
like, I was small too. I was like
That's awesome.
like 5 feet, you know, and people wanted to see if I could basically take it. I had older brothers, so that's what
okay.
they didn't know. I'd get beat up all the time. But yeah, it's interesting when you're put in those situations to see like how you grow out of it in a way, because
Yeah.
everybody, I would say not everybody does, but some choose growth. And I think that's what has for me sparked the interest in like wanting to talk to you in person and have you on my podcast, because like there's only a handful of people that I pay attention to, because in this day and age, like there's so many distractions
Yeah.
with everything. Like you can easily get plugged into staring at your phone for like 10 hours
Oh,
if
for
you
sure.
really, you know,
For sure.
had nothing to do. But for me, I think like there's only a handful of people that I like to tune into, and it's mainly because they're chasing something like growth, for example. Like I'm really big on growing as a person. You know, I don't want to be the same person that I was last year, and if I am, dang, that's my fault, you know?
The key, and if I was to tell somebody like what is the best way to grow into to be a different person or be a better person, is to meet more people. Like we have this bubble that we live in, and we forget that strangers are good people. Just because you don't know them and you think you know them does not mean they're not right. Because you, like, from not knowing somebody, you could be developing a perspective of who you think they are, and not until you meet them in person you start to say, wow, this guy's wonderful, this guy's amazing, this guy's super cool, this guy's humble, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah.
But you thought that they weren't, based on whatever they would post or whatever they would say. That was just those thoughts. It could have been whatever they were feeling or thinking at the time. I mean, that doesn't mean that's who they are.
Right.
So that's one of the things I learned is get to know more people. I'm always trying to reach out and meet new strangers, because at the end of the day, that is my customer. You know, that is my client, is strangers. It's never really going to be, you know, family and friends, because I believe that most family and friends will support you for the first 6 months to a year, and then after that, you're on your own. You know, you got to go out.
Pretty much.
Find, you know what I mean? You got to find
pretty
people.
much.
But that's what I try to focus on, is meeting new people and then nurturing the relationships that we already have. I built all my business from, you know, meeting new people and nurturing those relationships and keeping those old relationships, you know, where there's going to be like a reciprocal business back to them, and you know, we're working in a sense of, you know, always being there for them, you know.
I mean, that's 100% true, and it's like a true testament for yourself, because like here you are all these years later. I'm sure you have repeat customers,
Yeah.
you know, for different projects, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I believe reputation, and not only that, it's just like you said, building relationships is vital. I mean, I've been barely, you know, self-employed for like the last 2 years now, and it's crazy how fast time has flown by.
Oh yeah.
You know, but I've found that relationships are everything. You know,
Yeah.
I've gotten repeat business
For sure.
from that, and it's kind of funny because for me, I think it was like my first 6 to 7 months that I was self-employed in the solar game. I mean, I've been in construction for a while. Like I was selling new roofs. I was an inside salesperson for a company out in Madeira, and they did roofs, windows, everything like structural mainly. You know,
Yeah.
we did also new AC, HVAC units, things like that. Solar was another thing. Insulation. So sometimes I'd be hopping in an attic to like see how
Nice.
much insulation people have. Like I had to be almost like not a jack of all trades, but I had to know about everything, and it was hard in the beginning.
And you were like the inspector or the
No.
bidder?
Bidder essentially.
Oh, the bidder.
Yeah,
Okay.
but see, the way that I was trained back then is like, I if I was gonna do business, I liked it to be done then and there because I was running appointments. So like, I had no time to go back and, you know, chit chat afterwards, unless it was an install. I like to show up for those things, but like I was
You
running.
brought up a good point right now.
I was like running from Bakersfield all the way to Sacramento, so that's why. And plus, the company at that time, they didn't even want me to go back, and it kind of sucks because now looking back, you might be talking about this too. Like most salespeople don't go back and follow up, or
Yeah.
and that was 100.
But you brought up something else besides not going back and not following up. What you just finished saying is that you only had so much time. So the time frame in the sales cycle was a lot shorter.
Correct.
So you only had so much time to give out the information that they were seeking and make sure that they're confident enough to make a decision.
Correct.
So I think that was big because you learned something there throughout these episodes, and that's why we're always learning more about ourselves. Is like, I think that was a good play right there, or a good experience for you, because now what you've learned is like sometimes you'll only have so much time to be in front of somebody
To make a good first impression, to make sure they
Exactly.
freaking like you. Like
exactly.
there were countless times looking
Exactly.
back, you know, even though I felt so aware of everything in that moment, so aware of myself, so confident. Looking back, I guarantee you, I didn't get some sales because of my attitude.
The attitude.
I guarantee it.
What was your attitude like? What you had this feeling of like ego driven, in a sense of you knew too much?
but
or?
I think, I mean, number one, everything is gonna. They say all shit rolls downhill. So knowing where I was and everything that kind of happened, I wouldn't say it was so much ego, because in that moment, like, not a lot of people know, but I had lost a ton of money in cryptocurrency when I got that job. So for me, I knew going in, first 6 months, all those sales, it's not my money. I knew in that. So
you were operating in a sense of desperation.
yes, but I was very patient because I knew, hey, this money that's coming, so what? Like, it's whatever.
You have to, and you know what's funny is that's one of the things in sales that I've learned over time is people can read us when we're like desperate, right?
Yeah,
People
yeah.
can tell when you're, and sometimes I've came across people with my energy is sense of I'm excited more than they are about their own project.
Yeah.
And it can come off as like this guy is desperate for a sale, but in reality, it's just me enthusiastically happy that they're actually gonna finally do something about their problem.
Right, right.
And sometimes people can like finally, as they get to know me during the sales process, they're, oh, this guy loves what he does. He has a passion for what he does.
I mean, you're
And-
saying that I witnessed
So
that.
it takes a while for people to understand that, because at first they get like their defense up because they're like, what's this guy all happy for? What's he gonna do? I mean, but it's just because I'm excited about what I have to share. You know, I'm like, it's good information. It's gonna give you a return on your investment.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that it's gonna increase the value of your property. There's nothing better than that. Versus like if you're buying something, as soon as you pull off the lot, you're actually losing, and your life can get worse with with that type of business.
100%. I sold
And
cars
I'm
too.
sorry, the sales car guys. I'm sorry. I didn't
No, hey, I sold cars, so that's how it is sometimes.
I'm just like
I
I
see.
just bought a car.
Really?
I know that was a bad investment, but I just
I
bought
mean, it is what it is, But at the end of the day, I was just gonna capitalize on what you said really quick. When I had gone in to visit you over the summer, when I was looking into to do tile for that just tile layover that I was telling you about,
Yeah.
You did seem super excited when I
Mhm.
saw you, even though you had like a client you were helping. There was tile all laid out everywhere, so that
Yeah.
I didn't want to bug you because I was like, I know how it is.
Yeah, I was just
They're in
doing my thing.
they're choosing in between everything, but you still greeted me. You're like, hey, check this out. Like you seem very excited in your showroom, and that's the type of energy that I think everybody should be surrounded with.
Yeah, you should be excited about what you have to show. Like, in a sense, be excited that you have someone in front of you that you can share your services or products with. But you know, it's at the end of the day, it's mainly about discovery, like finding out what does that person want. Are they looking for your information, knowledge, or are they looking for something they can just like? Everybody has a different objection, right? And it's like finding that objection and then just playing off of that.
Okay, man. So you get started in the tile space. You have people against you, right? Different distributors. In those moments, like, what did you have to tell yourself to? I mean, were you always motivated? Like you said that you used the tile companies, that those distributors, you used that cancellation as like fuel.
Yeah, I use all that as fuel, but I was able to establish new networks and new accounts with other people and uh, build relationships with those companies. And they showed me the love that I was looking for, because this other company was not showing me the love. And it created like some type of excitement in me, like, I'll show you kind of thing, like, oh, but at the same time, that was my driver, and it's always been my driver. Like using something as fuel. Like if you lack like passion or drive, go back into people that doubted you. Go back and play those people's voices in your head and use that as your energy. At the end of the day, you're supposed to do it for yourself, but as doing it in a sense of like overcoming that doubt that they had introduced in your life, or that what they wanted to see outcome, then that's kind of where you get your head start,
Mm-hmm.
But at the end, once you're established, then you start just doing it for yourself, because you're out to help more people. So then you start focusing more on like, how many people can I reach out to that can get our amazing service, or see that there's more to just walking down an aisle and picking out something you don't want.
Right? Just having it be like a
Just buying it based on a price, and you didn't even really like it. Like you'll go home and install it, and you're like, I didn't really care for this, but it filled the void, and a year later you're doing the same thing over again because you really didn't like it. So it's finding the working, not necessarily with me, but in a sense, I feel like more people should shop when they're shopping for flooring, is go to an actual flooring store or a tile store. It doesn't necessarily have to be through Burgos Tile, but go and experience that, because it's a different experience than
100%.
just shopping at a big box where someone's just going to point down the aisle and say, figure it out.
That's 100% true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's so much, like, when I had gone to see you over the summer, that was the first time I had ever stepped foot into a tile store.
Oh,
and
okay.
for me, like,
Could be overwhelming.
100%. 100%, because I'm the type of person, like, I don't like to put too much energy into, I mean, it depends on what it is, of course, but sometimes, like, I feel like, not my attention span, but there's only certain things, like, if it doesn't interest me, I'm not gonna front and make it seem like it does,
Yeah.
And I think design, colorations, like for my Airbnbs, my sister did all of that. Like, I was focused on
awesome.
other things, because I knew that if I try to do this, I'm gonna overwhelm myself. I was trying to identify my strengths.
Are both units the Airbnb or?
Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
So today was actually, and I was telling you earlier, today's my second unit has been live, but my first guest arrived today.
Oh, wowzers.
Yeah,
That's
so
awesome. So you moved out?
yeah. So I was living there
And you got another place?
4 months ago. Right now, I'm helping out my grandparents.
Oh,
so
smart.
I inherited their house over the summer. So
Oh, wow.
right now, I'm just there helping them out. And honestly, I'm loving Porterville. You know, I don't know
That's
how
cool.
long I'll be here, but I do know that I'm trying to make the most of it and
Yeah.
trying to connect and do things for the community as best I can.
Nice.
Granted, you know, aside from solar and aside from Airbnb.
What's the name of the solar company you represent?
So I'm actually an independent dealer. I have 2 solar companies that I, you know, collaborate with. Kind of like, I think of them as distributors. Kind of like.
Oh,
kind
kind of the way we do it?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I have Apricot, and I also go through Power. I've done several deals amongst both now over the last 2 years. You know, every company that installs has their own hiccups. They have a little bit of different warranties, different things like that. But for the most part, everybody's going to offer like a 25 to 30-year solar warranty, either production or the panels. Those are the 2 that I've found the best experience with. I'm open to other dealers out there, or excuse me, other companies that do installs. But as of right now, I kind of found what I liked, which was being independent, because I went and worked, you know, W-2 for a company, and that was cool and all, but I realized that
just wasn't enough.
I wouldn't say it's not enough. I would say, so I actually went to school, you know, I did the whole college bachelor's degree thing, and I'm not knocking for, you know, the people that go and get their degree, but quite frankly, I don't think you need to if you're kind of know what you're going to get into. If you're a doctor or lawyer, you need to, for sure.
For sure.
You got to follow that criteria. But for me, I always kind of knew that I wanted to be in business, and it's funny, you were talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
But in high school, you know, I was telling you of these creative ways that I tried to make money. One of them, my senior year, was like these little bracelets that you could buy at the swap meet. You tie them, they're different colors. I had some people sell them for me at every high school in Porterville, all 3. And that's how I paid for all my prom. That's how I paid for all my Christmas formals, things like that. So at that time, and I say this because my teachers were like, you need to go to school for business. I was an avid, so they pushed the whole 4-year college story.
You know what? And I'll be honest, from my experience of like meeting people, all my friends that went to business school or they got their business administration school, they're like a bachelor's, let's say, I can tell you right now that they do have an up on me.
Really?
Yeah. I've met a lot of real estate investors that finished school, and they're a lot more organized than, let's say, I am. Like on another level of organized.
Spreadsheets, I'm sure.
Oh, they're geniuses when it comes to accounting and business administration, and it's helped them. And I could go back and think to myself, like, if I was to finish school, I would probably be that much, little bit more of organized, and they've gotten ahead because of that too. So that's helped them. And what I've done is I've delegated a lot of that stuff, so I have to pay more. In a sense, they do too. I'm pretty sure they do it in house now.
Yeah.
But I do it out house.
Okay.
So a lot of my administration is I'm like, you know, hiring assistants or just delegating all my work because I'm not good at that kind of stuff.
You brought up a really good point, because
so it does help.
Yeah, because for me, that's what I'm running in. Like, I went to school and did all that. My forte was not accounting. I changed my degree. I ended up going for more than 4 years, bouncing around what I wanted to do. It didn't start out as business. I was chasing the money in the beginning. Bad thing, bad decision, because I got curious as I'm going to school, asking all my professors, like, hey, what's this field like? You know, and I started to get feedback, things like that. And I started to realize, like, that's not what I want to do. So I changed it. And I'll sum it up real quick. What put me in the business, how I ended up landing myself in the business field, I would say, was I was chasing money, right? And I got presented with an opportunity to go and work selling cars at the Selma Auto Mall when I was 19.
Oh, nice.
And I only did it because I wanted more money. I got tired of working part time, having 2, 3 part time jobs. Like that was that I didn't
You
want to.
went through that, yeah. I've had a few jobs like where I W-2'd on. I mean, I've done a lot of W-2 jobs too.
Okay, okay.
So I know how that feels.
Yeah, and I was just trying to find my niche, like trying to find what I wanted to do. And I think what car sales did for me in that moment was get me a little more confident in my own ability to communicate, because people seen me more as, I guess, the correct word for it, because I kind of get this a lot. I don't feel like I am by any means, but some people tell me like my thoughts are organized. I don't really think they are personally, but that's what I've been told. So I can see that working out for me in the very beginning. Transitioning to where I am now, I feel like my organization skills could be, better. I would just think maybe where business school helped me was, I would just say my network at that time, connecting with people. Because honestly, like for me, when I went to school, I don't know what it was like for you, but the biggest fear I always had was like, how am I supposed to remember all this? Like, I'm paying all this money, where's it going to go? Like,
yeah, and it's not for everybody. And I think a lot of people that are not looking to like establish a career as let's say a nurse or a doctor or lawyer, they don't really need it, because at the end of the day, you can move up in a company if you wanted to work for a company, and based on your personality. So if you can better your personality and focus on that and read more books on how to be the best version of who you want to be, then you'll make more money. But it has all to do with your attitude, because I can stop what I'm doing right now. I can just throw in the towel and you say, Alex, I need you to start working at Sierra View District Hospital. And I'm not saying, who knows, I'm not going to move up to CEO.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, whatever department I'm in, if I really wanted to, I can move up the chain of command by being good to people and just being an outstanding worker. And a lot of people don't they settle, and they kind of get comfortable in their positions because their fear is growing, because they call it responsibility. But in a sense, I can tell you the people that are doing more or at a higher position than they are, they're not really that much more responsible, because they're doing the work and they're just sitting back watching the show. So you have to kind of see things in the sense of like, do you want to become that? Or do you want to be, the person that's, pushing the paper? I mean, it's like, who do you want to be? So at the end of the day, it's just comes down to belief. I think me, you, all of us growing up, especially, growing up Latino, is like, we were never taught to believe in ourselves. And that's where the majority of our problems come from, is like, that's not being humble, or you're like, I've seen people overuse that word, and I'm like, what are you talking about, humble? I mean, when my stomach used to grumble, you wouldn't tell me that I was humble, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But like, it's like, as we become hungrier, we start telling ourselves we are important. We are that person that we were supposed to become.
Heck yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you're not humble. But because other people don't want to do more, then they're humble. But humble is a misused word in a sense. You are important, and you're worthy. And humility is something that God has within yourself. So it has nothing to do with how you're acting, how you're being. If you want to show off that you did something, that because you put in the grind behind all that.
Heck yeah.
You put in the work. So that's why people don't understand, is the reason this person shows off is because they want to say, F you, I proved to you that I was worthy, that you said I wasn't. And that's where a lot of people don't get it. They think, oh, you're show off, or you're this. Dude, you have to show off because you're nothing. You weren't the straight A student. You weren't the valedictorian. And you want to prove to them that you're just as good or better.
Dang, I felt that passion right there. 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
No, I hear you loud and clear.
Okay. So that's where I come from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've always, being a DNF student, I've always told myself, I'm gonna show people that there is another way. And it's just being a good human being, being good to people and being of service, a servant leader. in the community, and you can become who you want to become.
There are two things that I want to bring up. I took it from what you just said, and it was like light bulbs went off for me right there. So you talk about responsibility, and you said that most people don't like to move up. I've heard this from people, so you're 100% right on that, where it's like, I'm going to stay right here because I don't want that responsibility, right? But you said it and
funny.
you rephrased it in a good way, like it's growth at the end of the day that they're avoiding.
Mm-hmm.
So number one,
You're scared to grow.
when you were creating your business, and I'm sure it might not just in the beginning, but like it might be when you were thinking at scale, like, hey, I want to scale this. Were you scared of that growth? Because you also talk about outsourcing things to people, and right now, I don't want to say my business is anything crazy, but I've had to find like, hey, I can't do everything.
The fastest key to growth, one of the nuggets that I've learned the last 2 years, is be a delegate master. Delegate everything. Don't do all the work yourself because you're just going to kill yourself. So one of the things that I've gotten really good at, and it's made me more, is I'm able to, from one point of the valley to another point of the valley, I'm able to use resources of people. Like I'm not focused in the sense of like trying to take the whole cake, and I'm able to push these projects to dozens and dozens of people and not be so crouched down into me trying to have my team do it. And it opens up the space in the sense of like I'm still involved and I'm still in control, but I don't have the headaches or the responsibility of having to take on everything. So I think at the end, if you want to grow, you have to be willing to like take less, and then in the sense of like if you have to hire that assistant, hire them, because that next year you're going to do double. And you're like, well, how? Because now you have someone doing all the stuff you used to do, you know? And you're like, well, I can't afford them. Well, you can at first, but if you take a pay cut and it's called a sacrifice, then eventually you will be able to, and someone else. And then you multiply. Because a lot of us forget in business that we have to learn multiplication, not adding and subtracting. You know what I mean?
110%. You know, I think right now I've kind of been in that same boat. Like I'm doing, most people would be like, oh man, you're making all this money. But like, yeah, there's expenses, there's, you know, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes into it. But that's what I've been battling. Like, hey, and I think I needed that perspective change. Like you were speaking to me in that moment.
Yeah,
like,
it's just a matter of.
I remember you actually, a few months ago, you were telling me like, hey, you need to be doing this. And it wasn't, I didn't take it as like criticism. It was constructive criticism because you're a business owner. So I took what you said and I was like, dude, this guy's right. Like you were like, hey, you're worth, I think you said like $60 or $80 an hour. Like you're not worth that. That's less. You like, that's not worth your time. You're basically telling me in a story that I was doing.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying
like,
that
wow,
like a lot of people want to do everything themselves in a sense of like, let's say you got a plumbing at your house or a rental. Why would you go out there and go underneath and show your crack when you're not that guy? I mean, it's going to take you 3 to 4 times the amount of when you could have paid someone $120 and you could have made $500. So you left $500 on the table to make a $120 repair. It just doesn't mathematically make sense. But that goes back to not valuing ourselves. Is like, how much do you value yourself? And I'm not trying to say is like snuffing to not wanting to put in the dirt or work or get your hands dirty. I'm not saying don't get your hands dirty, because you should show people in your team that you are willing to put in the work and you are willing to do what they do. But at the same time, when there's problems, your ultimate goal is to see how much speed you have in a sense of like your ability to turn off that fire. Like you figure those are fires. And who can shut the fire the fastest is the winner always. So if you have a problem, then it's like a game in your head. Is like, I get problems all the time. And that's why I get paid, because I'm solving problems. So if I can solve more problems for people, then they're going to pay me. So what I do is I get a problem, then I go, boom. It's like a torpedo. I'm going to get this guy on this. He can like snuff out the fire. There's a problem there. Then I get another problem over here. Boom. Send someone over here. Send more. Okay, the problem's not. It's still, the fire's still out of control. Boom. Send 2 more people. Boom, boom. And it's like a game at the end, because it's like you're like a send the reinforcements, you know, and you make it fun where you're not so involved, but at the same time things are getting done. And it's just being able, because a lot of people, like I've had that problem too, where I wanted to do everything because I felt like nobody could do it as good as me. And that's where my problems happen is, and has stunted my growth. I'm not going to say that I was this perfect guy. No, and I'm still have a lot to build, and I'm still, I don't feel like I'm successful in any way. I'm going to tell you that right now. I've never felt like I've made it, and that's my problem. Is I'm always hard on myself. In a sense, I always feel like I need to do more and be more because I mean, we never want to do this whole comparison thing and stay in your lane, but we do see other people that are doing 10 times what we're doing, and we're just like, whoa, it gives me like a reshift in my mind, like I need to wake up.
Like almost to like possibilities of what is out there,
sure.
right?
All my friends that I call them friends, but you know, I'm not around them all the time, but who I network with, they're all doing, you know, 5 to 10 times more than me. All of them. And it always puts me in that perspective that I need to do more. 100%. And it keeps me hungry.
100%.
But you know what I mean? It's just, that's how life is.
Yeah, yeah. What did that for me in that moment? Like, because like I'm in solar, and I feel like I do the same. Like I wouldn't call myself like a real estate investor. I think I do on Instagram, but like I'm at a small scale, and kind of like what you said, like I know so many people like yourself, like other real estate professionals in Fresno, things like that too, that are like, dang, you know, they're doing a lot. And even solar people. I know some solar guys that are doing 10, 20 deals a month, knocking doors. Yeah. No. I'm not a door knocker. Like I realize my strength is when I'm in front of somebody. Like if I got
to get in front of somebody, you got to door the knock.
Exactly.
You got to knock the door. I think that sometimes we as people, we don't want to confront our I guess you could say our weakness, but we have to do it. And then as you start to do it, you're going to start noticing you're getting better at it. It's like bouncing a basketball. Mm-hmm. Like I tell people, like it took me over 10 years to do the 10,000 hours. I did it the wrong way. I learned my sales skills over time. It's not the right way. I'm going to tell you right now. Like I became good at sales because of trial and error, not the right way. I'll tell you that right now. There is a better way, and it's called. There's universities online where you can get on. I can share those if you guys want to know. But there's people that teach it, and if you can collapse time and take time out of the equation, you know, because it took me over 10 years to learn it, right? Then you're going to be that much more ahead. It's like Elon Musk said that if you want to clean your house and you tell yourself it's going to take 30 days, it's going to take 30 days. But if you want to do it in 2 hours, it's going to take 2 hours. You know, it just depends on what you tell yourself in your mind, right?
I like what you said right there. You're like collapse time. I used to do that. That was one of, long time ago, I used to be, well, not used to. I'm a huge Grant Cardone fan. But back in the day when I was like, live or die, like he's the guru, right? Back in like 2016.
He's super cool, yeah.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of sales skills from him. Like he's taught me that it's okay to be, in a sense, like it's okay to follow up and be excited and enthusiastic about what you sell. Like I used to think that was a bad thing, and he taught me that no, you're supposed to meet and try to show value by presenting things that people want to see. And most of us would always think like, oh no, you're being needy, you're being desperate. It wasn't any of that. It was you're just not sold on your product, and that's why you're not showing or calling back, because you really don't believe in what you sell. At the end of the day, it has more to do with something that you feel is not worth what you're trying to do. So now I look at it like they need to have this because it's going to enrich their life. It's going to make them feel good, and that's why they should do it.
100%. I mean, I can think of a few times where I don't think I was sold enough when I was working, because I've had all kinds of different sales jobs.
Yeah, you know? So you would quit after 3 or 4 months because you didn't believe in the product.
100%. Or
you felt like they were getting ripped off in a sense of what they were paying for what they were getting. So there was something wrong there. So you had an uneasy feel. So you might have killed it for the first month or two, and then after that, you were like, I'm out of here because you
catch
didn't-
on, right?
Yeah, you didn't feel like it was. See, that has something to do with ethics. You knew deep down inside that something that the company was doing wasn't ethical, so you caught on in the sense of like, this is not right and this isn't benefiting anybody. I'm out. You know, and that could be a good thing too, because you know, you should sell things that you know are gonna better lives, make their situations better, not necessarily put them in a
100%.
position where they're not gonna do well after
Or
the
you're
fact.
screwing them over. Or,
Exactly.
I mean, being in the construction field for the 3 years that I was, man, that was interesting because, you know, there were a lot of horror stories with contractors that I'd hear of, from like people paying $15,000 for an AC replacement and they never showed up,
Oh, I know.
and don't answer, phone's disconnected, like crazy stories, you know.
Somebody called me today. Well, they sent me a message because I told them I did a deal over the phone just with pictures and, you know, talking on the phone. So I told them, okay, next step is for you to go leave a $500 deposit. And they were like, they sent me this long paragraph how they got burned, and I just replied back with 15 years business as a corporation. Here's my logo, same location for the same amount of time. And after that, he just goes, okay. You know, like so this whole the whole time I said, I've been in business for this long at the same location for this amount of time. I go, you make the decision now if you think that I'm going to rip you off for 500.
That's strong for
and
sure.
then they were just like, okay. Yeah, they went in there and they paid it. But it's just and that helps, you know, the longer you've been helping people start to see that you're the real deal Holyfield, right?
I was going to ask you, so how long did it take you for yourself to be like, hey, I want to open up a showroom finally?
Well, I was in, like, you know, operating out of the house, so I built a showroom in my backyard. So we started getting random strangers. No, I've moved a few times.
Okay.
This is we just bought this house here about 3.5 years ago. But we were living on I lived on G Street. That was my first house, and that's where I built my first showroom. I want to go back one of these days and video it, because put the lights, and it was cool. Then I bought a forklift lat in the backyard. We had a lot of strangers coming to the house. So we kept looking at, back then, this was in 2007 and 8, there was people would still read the newspaper.
Yeah.
So I opened up the newspaper and I was looking for a location because Naribia was like, hey man, there's people like knocking on the door and there's someone coming over the house. Like, who are these people? I don't feel safe. And I was like, oh, they're just looking for tile. So
that's actually one thing that I wanted to ask you too. Like, I know in today's world, we don't really see behind the scenes, like the support systems, things like that. Like for myself, like I'm doing all this and it's just me and like my immediate family, right? My mom, my dad, you know, sometimes my grandparents help. But for you, like you started, I would assume you had a family meanwhile, like getting the business going, or did you start that after? Like,
no, the family came after.
Okay.
So I was able to kind of create this based on, out of desperation, because I had gotten pink slip from the mortgage industry because of the crash, so I didn't have any other thing to do, and I kept getting pink slip from these big companies. So
pink slip meaning like, hey, we're not
gonna need you because the market is melting.
Oh, wow.
So there was a like nobody, you just couldn't work because I worked for First Magnus Financial under the DBA charter funding, and then these were some big banks that were folding. So as they were folding, and then I worked for another company called Guild Mortgage. I think Guild Mortgage is still around.
I've heard of them.
I think they made it, but a lot of these companies were folding. I was on their I was on their books, and they just said, "Hey, we're toast. We're sinking, Titanic." You know, so I was like, "What do I do?" And everybody was just like, "Did you get the email? Did you get the email?"
Dang.
You know, we were working in these big, beautiful offices over there by Avenida Robles in Visalia, super luxury buildings. We were in there, you know, and we get an email. We're like, "Oh, we don't have a job. Pack your shit," you know.
Did you always want to become like a business owner, or did you see yourself or envision that?
I envisioned it, but I didn't have I didn't want to go wash cars, you know, and I had the car wash thing, and I like people. So I was already meeting people, and in a sense, you know, while I was doing loans, home loans. So I got the grasp of like being confident, like you said, and being in front of somebody. And I was good at, you know, just helping people. I like helping people, and I like to be able to guide someone from like start of a process to the end of the process. You know.
Ah, okay.
So,
And would you say at your location, that's what you're able to help all of your clients do?
yeah, so that's what we're able to do is they all come with a problem, and there's different problems, and it's just solving problems. So we're just in the people business, and we're in the problem solving business.
I feel like we can relate that, what you just said, to every industry ever. And if people just paid attention to that, like, hey, and understood, like, you got to communicate and you have to solve the problem that you're there for, like, things would work. I mean, I think miraculously, but there is no
like
perfect
your
world,
problem
you know?
is the bills are too high. They're overpaying for electricity when they can find a program or a system that can help reduce that payment down to more cost savings or comfortable level for them, whatever the case might be.
So, I mean, if more people focused on attacking the problem and like what they're there for, I think the world would work and function more accordingly.
That's what makes a great salesperson is
100%.
focusing on how can I solve this person's problems instead of focusing how much commission check am I going to get. I never tally up what money I'm going to make. I don't even care. At the end, it's like it's going to rain on me if I continue to just help people. Like I don't even like focus on like, okay, this person I'm going to, a lot of people do that and they need to focus more on like, how many more people can I meet that have these same problems?
Absolutely. And really quick, I want to actually open this up for you, open up the platform. Is there anything that you want to maybe plug in your location?
So we have a office in Visalia. We have a showroom at 2443 East Main Street in Visalia. That location's been open for 5 years. And we have another store that's been open for 15 years on Olive Avenue in Porterville. Google burgostile.com and you'll get to know a little bit more about our company. We're looking to expand in 2022. We're hoping to get an office showroom in Hanford.
Nice.
And then if that goes through, then we're going to push to Bakersfield. So we're trying to branch out a little bit, help more people, get more closer to the area so people don't have to commute as far.
Now, do you guys have a certain distance right now that you're willing to take on jobs as they come? Or?
No, right now they're running from Fresno to Bakersfield. So
oh, okay. Shoot, that's a big territory.
if they're willing to come, then we'll service them, and then we're willing to help them and send people out.
Okay.
To go take care of them.
Burgos Tile, everybody, check them out. I'll have everything linked in the video for you guys to check out if you're watching this on podcast, on a podcast platform. I will have everything in the YouTube video. At this point, if you're still tuning in, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review if you're checking this out on, like I said, any of the platforms. Now, Alex, I wanted to tap in. I know primarily I wanted to kind of get insight on the business and everything like that. But tell me more about, you know, other things that you're involved in right now, like real estate and day trading.
So I got involved in real estate from, you know, owning my first house. I actually failed. So a lot of people don't like to talk about their failures, but my first home was bought when the market, you know, had started taking its first jumps back in 05, 06. While I was working in the mortgage industry, they were able to do a loan for me, and
Oh, wow.
It was stated income, stated assets. So I was barely getting money going. I was making $3,000 to $5,000 a month as a loan officer just when I first started, and it was big money for me back then. That was like incredible money because
you felt like you were
yeah, king of the hill.
I've been there
because I'd never seen so much money. I always had, you know, just, you know, I've always worked regular jobs, and I was doing really good, and then we got interested in buying a house. You know, we just first started dating, and I said I'm going to buy a house, and then she come once we got married, and you know, she can move in, and that's what happened. And I was swinging at that time, I think, because the rates back then were like 8.5,
Dang,
And
that's good. That's high. Higher
yeah, they
than,
were high back then.
dang.
I think is based on your credit and the risk. So I think I paid one that was 8.5, and the other one was like there was two loans. It was called a 228 arm.
Oh,
So they
shoot.
did one small loan and one big loan. I don't remember. It was an 80/20. They called
Okay.
it an 80/20 loan. Anyways, I'll make a long story short. I ended up losing the property, and we had to put it up as a short sale because I got canned from working for these big banks.
Okay.
So I didn't know what to do, and I went into a panic. And I ended up finding out with the realtor that I hired. Her name was Valia Perez. She still works in town.
Okay.
She was able to find a buyer that would do what they call a short sale.
Okay.
So when I went through the short sale process, I was saved because one of the persons that bought the property was an old. He was a few years older than me, but he went to the same schools as me. He went to Strathmore, and we knew his parents, and his parents owned big businesses doing farm labor contracting.
Okay.
So they bought the house for pennies on the dollar, and I think they paid like $65,000. I had bought in the house for $185,000, so they got it for nothing. So they seen me, and they're like, "Oh, it's Alex that lives here," and they said, "Hey, would you like to stay?" And the rest is history. Because as soon as they gave me that chance to stay, I mean, keep in mind I was passionate about the house. I had put brand new air conditioner, new flooring. I mean, I made the house look like, I've always been into like, sprucing up homes,
Yeah.
So I made it look super nice, and I didn't want to leave, because I felt like all this money I put into this home, So he let me rent there for $600 a month. And during those years, I already had Burgos Tile. So I had started Burgos Tile, and with the rent being so low, I was able to open up a commercial space for the tile business.
Oh, it's the same house that you were talking about.
Yeah. So, but I didn't. The same house, but I was able to open up an actual location.
Oh,
Because
I see what you're saying.
my payment went down. Since I was making a $1,400 a month payment, went down to $600. So all this difference in money, I was able to save.
I see what you're saying.
So my first building that I was renting was $500 a month. So I was just saving and saving and saving, and we were able to save up $35,000. And
Dang.
that money, I bought a house cash in 2011. So
Here in town?
yeah, so I was renting for 2.5 years, and here in town, right next to the old fairgrounds. I
know
bought
exactly
a
where
house
that's
for
at.
$35,000 on Murray Avenue. That was my first house, the second house, I guess. The other one, we ended up moving out of it, so we moved into the small house. I fixed it up, made it look super nice, and then our firstborn came, Khalees, and we were living there, and we had no rent and no mortgage payment.
Dang.
So during this time, I was able to do, also make it look like the Taj Mahal, and it was a little tiny, tiny home. It was only, I think, 780 feet. So
Wow, that's
really
like a
small.
what, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom?
It was actually a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, but it was listed as a 2 bedroom, 1 bath. But it was really like a 1 bedroom, 1 bath.
Dang.
But because they had a little tiny room and they had a little closet in there, they called it
They,
2 bedroom.
you're technically right. By code, you're able to call it a.
Yeah, they called it a 2-1. But so during that time, was like the best time, right? 2011, all the houses were on the floor. Like it was like all the real estate investors they didn't know it at the time, but they were in prime because all the housing was super duper cheap. So
Heck
anybody
yeah.
that bought in 2011, 2012,
I mean, you're saying
They
35,000
did really well.
cash. That's crazy. Because I grew up right there by the fairgrounds.
Mhm.
I was telling you,
That's where-
Plano,
that's where-
Plano and Mill. That's
Mhm.
where I grew up.
Oh,
and
cool.
Yeah, so I would go
See,
there
I lived
all the time.
I lived off of Mill. Like my house was the one with the red door. It was, I don't know if you remember the house with the red door on Murray.
That's literally the street right behind Mill, right?
Mm-hmm.
The red door. Did it have brick?
No, not this
No?
one. This was a really tiny house. It was like we
I'll have to
were,
pass
we were
by.
across the street from the fairgrounds at that time.
Is literally across the street then?
Yeah, like kind of like facing like this, and then it would go that way.
Okay.
So what happened was during while living there, we lived there 2.5 years, and we're like, okay, on going on to the third year, we're like, we need to get out of this. We're kind of outgrown this house,
Mhm.
and the business was already running. So I was like, okay, maybe it's time for us to buy another house. And yeah, we qualified for another house. Our credit rating was back up and really good. And we bought a normal house. We bought over behind Superburger, and it was a nice house.
Okay.
But we were still modest on how we were buying because we were scared because we experienced, the whole losing that first house. So we always felt that bitter taste in our mouth of like losing something. So we were just more cautious, and we weren't out trying to live like out of our means. So we were really like reserved.
You literally took the lesson from
on everything.
That's awesome.
The cars, we would not buy new cars. We would drive used vehicles. Like we would live like we had more that because we owned a business, but we just didn't live that way. We lived very, very reserved, very tight. And I thank my wife for that because she's taught me to be more frugal. I wasn't always the most frugal guy. I always like to have nice things.
Yeah.
So when we moved to the other house over on, it was called Chestnut. We bought that house for $116,000. So this house became a rental. And when this house was a rental, I decided to pull equity out because it was free, free and clear. So I pulled out $55,000 out, and I did the loan. And an opportunity came up. I had that money in the bank, and I was shopping for another house. So an opportunity came up to buy a house on. I think that street was Roach.
Okay.
Yeah, so I bought a house there. It was a corner, and it went for $76,000.
Dang.
So I went in there, fixed it up, made it look nice, and I turned it into a rental. It was rented out for 8 months, and the people ended up moving out. So I went back in there and cleaned it, and then when I did, I ended up deciding to sell both properties, the Roach house and the Murray house.
Okay.
So then I got that. And they practically sold within the same time frame, like 10 days apart.
Oh shoot!
So we had a house that was selling for $140,000, the Roach house, and then we had a house that was selling for $105,000, the Murray house.
Dang! What year was this when you were selling them?
This was in 2015.
Okay.
So then when we sold these properties, we had I think $175,000 net.
Paying back the loan for the refi, right? Doing the upgrades, I would imagine. Okay.
So with this extra money, we didn't know what to do with it. So we put it in what they call a 1031 exchange.
Ah, I like that.
Yeah.
I know what that is now.
Yeah. So we put it in a 1031 exchange. We got advised to do that. And then we bought a fourplex.
For those really quick that don't know what a 1031 exchange is, can you elaborate? Just brief.
So what a 1031 exchange is, it's a impound account that they created from a third party to hold your money while you shop for another property so you can avoid paying taxes on your gains.
It's a smart play. Who advised that, by the way? How did you learn about that at that time?
Because I would always hear the horror stories about selling and getting taxed. So I did some research.
Okay.
And I figured out a way, like, what can I say to get away from paying taxes on this stuff?
There's a time frame, right, from the moment.
6 months, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
I heard they're trying to do away with it, but
with the time frame?
No, with 1031 altogether.
No way.
Yeah.
Is that a part of like the new tax?
Biden was trying to get rid of it for some odd reason.
Wow.
I don't know. Who knows?
Well, that sucks. But
so then we bought the fourplex, and then that's when I felt different. Okay. That's when I said, wow, life is starting to change for me. Because I put a lot down. And I bought the fourplex for $275,000, but I put $175,000 down. So I didn't have much of a payment.
Like
on
what,
it.
less than 100,000 or about 100,000?
Yeah, it was like 99 or 98 or something. It was ridiculous. So I walked up confident, knocked on the doors and said, I own this place.
Was that also here in town?
I need you guys to sign. Yeah, it's right here. It's off of Putnam.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dang.
So after that feeling, I just got addicted. I was like, dude, this is the best feeling in the world, is like owning space, owning a building, because I got so excited. I painted it. I went crazy. I one of the units ended up becoming available. You should see. I have pictures of that unit. I made it look like decked out. Like Airbnb. Wow. Like my cousins and friends would always tell me, "You're always overdoing shit." Like,
well, I
seen
what you did to your loft area right there at your shop. That you Airbnb out.
Yeah.
And yeah, that If it's anything like that, I feel like it's
Yeah, it was exactly like that. People
Yeah.
always tell me you just overdo shit, but I've always like I like to design and I like to make things look badass.
Yeah, yeah. Shoot.
So then from there, I pulled equity out of there after about a year of owning them because I got comfortable with, going out and collecting rents. I felt like, okay, I can repeat this process, and I pulled equity out of there because we had tons of equity. I mean, we had paid 275, but we gave 175 down, so that was just money just sitting in there. So we wanted our money back.
I'm sure over time equity rose up too.
It even
right?
went up, yeah. I think it appraised at that time at 320 or
Dang.
325, and then we pulled equity out, and then we came in an opportunity to buy a property. While I was owning the fourplex, I was able to buy another house cash in Corcoran. I bought it for $38,000, and that was going to be a flip, but I ended up turning it into a rental also.
Okay.
So then I owned the property in Corcoran, and then the fourplex, and then I pulled money out of the property in the fourplex, and then I bought a triplex, and it was a really good looking triplex.
Wow.
So I was able to buy these properties, and then I repeated the process where I sold Corcoran, and I bought another fourplex in Visalia, Farmersville area,
Okay.
and then I was able to put a big chunk down there, but I had a lot of equity because I bought right. So all these properties I was buying right. They were all good timing. The markets were
This
down.
all between like I wouldn't say 08, what, like 202010 on to like 15 area.
Yeah. So the property values weren't what they are now.
Yeah, everything's gone up.
I've kept all these
astronomical.
properties. So every time I'd get a house, I never wanted it because I always knew that if somebody moved out, then there was no one there. So you had to repeat the process of cleaning. So I figured the best thing to do is get a duplex, triplex, or fourplexes, because when somebody leaves, it doesn't matter because there's still 3 other people paying the mortgage.
100%. Grant Cardone talks about that all the time. I think that's why I wanted more units. I mean, I only have a duplex, but
Yeah.
he's like, more doors, it reduces your risk, the more doors that you have. And I kind of, not like yourself, but I experienced something very similar with my first house where I couldn't afford it once I was switching jobs. A lot of stuff happened. So I kind of was like yourself, like I had that feeling like, oh, I don't want this to happen to me again. So that's why I wanted to go more doors to decrease the mortgage cost. But it's crazy you say all this, man, because what comes to mind is a post that you posted like last year, around the time we were first engaging with each other, and you were talking about like, I think you had just acquired the land right here behind your property.
So that has a story too.
You were just telling me about, you weren't telling me, you had posted and said like, I liked playing Monopoly as a kid or something like that.
I do, and I still do, but nobody ever wants to play. And I'm like seriously wanting to play, but nobody ever wants to play with me because
I feel
like everybody's always like, that game takes too long. Everybody's always negative about Monopoly, and I love Monopoly till this day. Like if you bring out a board, I'll be here and I'll play with you because I just love like the whole game. I just think it's super cool to own properties, and
right.
I think it's just like at the end, I mean, it gives you like that whole like, but what kind of potential do we have is like I want to go down owning a couple hundred properties because I want to know that those buildings, I made them look pretty, and I brought up the neighborhoods and stuff like that.
100%.
It's a good legacy to have.
Heck yeah. I think overall, like, I don't want to say that it's bulletproof because you and I mean you're just explaining like you experienced what you experienced, like the cyclical.
Yeah.
How would you say
do you want me to be honest with you though?
Go ahead.
I do believe it's bulletproof now. Now that I've researched how stocks work and how real estate works, stocks is bullshit. Stocks is like, I invest in it, but because it's a luck thing in a sense of like, if the company is doing the right moves, then you have something to gain, and you have to wait a long time. So it's somewhere to throw your money at, but then the real money is made in real estate. Real wealth is made in real estate. It's not made anything else. Because if you were to tell me, hey, Alex, if you weren't to take all these risks buying these little properties, would you have been where you're at? Absolutely not. Because my main gain was not Burgos Tile. It was made through real estate buy and holds and flips. Because real estate should be everybody's piggy bank. At the end of the day, real estate, you can't lose, because people think like, oh, it's going to go down in value. Who cares? Because at the end of the day, you still own real property, which means it's tangible. There's still something there. Versus if you own a stock, you own a piece of paper. If
True.
the company goes belly up or it drops down in value, that paper is worth less. On a property, it could be worth less or it could be worth more. But if it's cash flowing and there's someone in there taking care of your payment, and they're taking care of your property taxes, and they're taking care of their own maintenance that they're causing, then how do you lose?
True.
It's like more of like that. That's why you have to be careful that you shouldn't be buying single family residence.
Yeah, that's why I did.
That is dangerous.
Yeah,
that
that's
is
why
dangerous.
I didn't say.
But like if you can try to tap into the multifamily market and do a little bit of house hack where you buy one duplex, and yeah, you're gonna pay $200,000 for a duplex now, versus back in the day you could have picked it up for 115, 120. But it's okay. Buy one, rent out the other. So you live in one and you rent out the other. And life is all about a sacrifice at the end. Who's willing to do that is the one that wins, right? Because everybody wants to like have everything, but they don't want to sacrifice. They don't want to go through the shit.
They want their cake and they want to eat it too.
Yeah, you have to eat shit for years and live small. If not, you'll have an episode of what happened to me with that first house where I wanted the big house and I wanted a. It wasn't even a big house, by the way. I was in the hood, but it was just the market was high.
You said on G Street, right?
Yeah.
That's where I grew up. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. So
I got stories there too, but no, I've seen some stuff that people wouldn't like. They wouldn't believe me if I told them.
No, I'll just say, you know, I had a lot of family and stuff. Grew up there too, so I know I know how it could be.
It's rough. Yeah.
So, I really like, you know, your story and how you go on to talk about owning multifamily, because that's why I did. That's why I said what I said. Like, hey, it's not bulletproof, because I'm biased on multifamily because I happen to have one now. And my first, you know, mistake I would say in real estate was when I had one door, essentially. Just bad time, you know, job transition.
Yeah, one doors don't work.
Yeah, I couldn't really make sense of it. And so that's why I decided in 2019 to buy the duplex. Initially, I wanted more, but it's what I qualified for at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually, you know, it became Airbnb. And I actually wanted to ask you about that too. So
if ever, I can attest to anybody that does Airbnb is buying, like they're getting into where the real gold is at, because then now it is a more time consuming gig now, because you do have to have the cleaning people to keep every single like place like that your Airbnb is immaculate, because it's based on reviews. But creating an experience for the person that's renting your spot for the short stay is what it's all about. But if you do it right, you can make a lot of money in Airbnb versus just renting the building.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, it's a game changer, because from listening to people's returns, they're usually like twice the rents of what they would rent it for, if not 3 times.
Yeah.
So it's mega huge right now, and you're starting to see a lot of people get into that market space.
The story you told me earlier of renting your spot out on Airbnb, or excuse me, to the contract with the hospital. When you were explaining that to me, I ran into a similar situation where I had people contacting me to stay months on end, and I'm like, honestly, I already know what the potential is here. I'm not going to rent it out for $1,000 a month, because I've been doing way better than that.
Yeah,
you know what
for
I'm saying?
sure.
So, yeah, I would just say Airbnb, for those that are watching or those that will watch, I would consider it if you own a place already. I don't know what it would be like.
Rent out a room. I mean, you know what's funny is we'll go more into detail later, but the first house I bought, I was struggling so bad with the payment that I ended up renting out a room. I put an ad in the paper, room for rent, $325, and someone took it.
No
and
way.
I became friends with him. Yeah, and he rented it, and then I ended up having to kick him out because he moved in his girlfriend, and then it was just too many people in the house.
Yeah, I feel it.
There was no privacy.
Man.
But yeah, I mean, at the end, it's there's a lot of ways to make money in this day and age because of technology. So back then I used to use eBay to sell games that I was playing. So if I was playing like a video game,
Yeah.
I would buy it, and then I would play it and get bored of it, put it back in its packaging, and then list it back on eBay and make an extra $5-10. And at that time, that was big money. This was in
Heck
high
yeah.
school, but so there's ways to make money, like buying and reselling things, and that's how you get to meet more people, and people might. I mean, you could start. I think what happens with most people is nobody wants to be seen starting at the bottom.
100%. I'm glad you
That's
said
what
that.
the
I'm
problem
glad
is
you
with
said
people.
that. I'm glad
It's
you
like
said that.
I have a buddy that he every time he sees me he's like, Alex, what's up, man? And dude, I'm so proud of this guy. His name's Churroholics.
I think I have him as a friend.
Yeah,
I don't know
super
who.
cool.
Yeah.
He started with a little thing like just selling
Little
churros.
rig. Yeah.
Now he has trailers all over.
I think he got a second one, if I'm not mistaken. I want to
Yeah.
meet this guy personally.
Yeah,
but
super cool. Super
yeah,
cool.
I just have the account
I
on
don't
Facebook
know him
as
that
a
well,
friend.
but he'll call me for questions and like advice, and I'm able to help him and I motivate him and stuff. And I mean, he's done well, but I mean, think about it. He got this piece of dough. He shapes it into a churro, and then they drizzle sugar on it, and then they put a little cup of chocolate, and then they're dipping it, and then they're charging 2-3 bucks. It's just everything is it's sweet. You know, people like it. Boom,
Creating
business.
an experience, right?
Yeah, but everyone like doesn't want to fail. Nobody wants to like see the who cares if you fail? You're gonna fail, so you have to be wanting to fail fast in a sense, you know, because
Yeah,
in a
no.
sense that's probably what's gonna be the best thing for you. Because like how I told you, I failed multiple times in life, and they're like the best experiences.
It's interesting that you say that, fail faster. I've known this, but like when you're in a situation, sometimes you don't see clearly, right? And I will say when I'm just reverting back to that time because I can remember you telling me like, hey, list it already. Like, don't focus on all this stuff that you're doing in the unit for my first Airbnb. You're like, list it. And I was like, dang, but it's not ready. Like, you know,
Yeah, nothing's ever going to be ready in our lives. Like, we have to just go. Because if you were to study the super successful people, the people that me and you look up to, watch them. And if you focus on what they do better, is they work with speed. They're constantly attacking and moving through things faster than most normal people. Because to them, it's a sport. It's a contact sport. In a sense of like, how many contacts, how many people can I meet and greet until I can get what I want? And most of us think too much like, well, what if? Or what if this goes wrong? Well, at the end of the day, what if it does? That's a good thing because in a sense, you tweak what you're doing wrong and then you just keep moving forward.
Absolutely. Now, what is something you would tell the audience? I have a kind of like a wide spectrum of people to watch from like 18 to, I would say, late 40s, early 50s too. I just got a lot of people that pay attention. But what's some advice, because you've given us a lot of gems here today. What's something you can leave them with? Words of wisdom or anything?
Best thing is get good at communication. Is get good at dealing with people. Be able to not get emotional through experiences with people and learn how to tell yourself to not take anything personal. Because if you can focus on being there, present, listening to someone's problem, but not getting emotional like they are, then you're going to be successful because you're able to dissect things a different way by not being emotional like they are.
Mm.
And what I would say is get good at sales, get good at dealing with people in a sense of like, if you have to go through YouTube day in and day out or Googling or reading books on the subject, then do that because that's what's going to make you great. Because in a sense, people that are great are good with people.
That's really good, actually. That's some practical advice, I think, for people that are going to tune in. And one last thing that I want to leave off on, it's going to be on like an idea, and it's more for yourself. Because you're talking about just goals and things that you have for the land that you acquired. I want to give you the ability real quick, if you have some time, just to explain that story and how that came about and like your grand vision for what you want to do.
What I was doing is I was out here, friends would come by and we would have a beer and some wine and smoke cigars out here. I was always looking that way, and I already had met the owner, and she was an elderly woman, and I've always envisioned myself owning it. I don't know. It was like kind of like a field of dreams, you know. I was like looking over there, like they're not doing anything with it, and I knew that, you know, from seeing her walk around, and I would stop her and say hi and ask her, "You ever need help with anything? I'm here for you. I'm a friendly neighbor." And she was like, "It's been in the family for 90 years under
Wow.
a trust." And I was like, "Cool." And I said, one day I just got a little bolder as every time we'd meet. I was like, "If you're ever interested in selling, I'd be interested in knowing what you'd want for it." And that's kind of how it started. And then the opportunity came, and she presented a number that I couldn't take, and I said, "I just can't do anywhere near that number." But then she had presented paperwork that she had listed in 05, 06, and at that time it was listed for, they were asking 1.6 million or something, and I was like,
Wow.
she's going to want a pretty penny for this. So I kind of lost hope in a sense of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what, I'm gonna somehow get this, but it's just gonna take time of me just being a little more patient, you know. And then I guess when COVID hit, the opportunity came up again, because then she called me and saying, "Hey, I'm kind of thinking this needs to go to you guys,"
Oh, wow.
and that's when it all started happening.
And how big is it again? I'm thinking 16 acres.
It was
Isn't that wrong?
16.97.
Okay. Okay. Dang, that's still
And it
massive.
comes with the house, but it's zoned right now RM2. But the possibilities is if somebody was to do a lot line adjustment for the house, pull it off as its own APN, and then the rest of the land would be zoned multifamily. So
So what is RM?
I can't do anything with it because I don't have the experience or skills to develop. I don't
Gotcha.
know. So I have to team up with people, and I'm not nowhere in that position in life right now where I can draw or attract. But what I'm trying to do is actually just go kind of, just in a sense, sprinkle it out there a little bit to maybe
Yeah.
attract somebody.
Yeah, of course.
And then once that happens, then they'll know what to do, you know?
What does RM2 mean? I'm not familiar.
It's just, it's zone, what they call medium density. So it's zoned for medium density, which is
Like how much
apartments.
traffic you can have there, essentially?
Yeah, how many people can actually live in that.
Got you.
And then we've discussed it. Yeah, we don't want it to be like a rundown. Like, we want it to be
Nice.
obviously a nicer apartment
Yeah.
complex, kind of like the one over there by, right next door to Tractor Supply. You know, luxury apartments. Yeah.
Oh, on the other side of town.
That would be
okay.
my ultimate goal. You
Okay.
know, beautiful. I would sell it as, you know, the beautiful view of the mountains. You know,
Heck yeah.
you're right on the best position to walk out your balcony and look at the mountain ranges. You know?
It's a big area too.
Yeah.
I think it'd be ultimately nice.
I mean, but at the end of the day, it's not worth anything until something actually happens, right?
Mhm.
It's just a piece of land. So right now we're just cash flowing from the rental and just eventually gonna, you know, meet more people and present it to more people until somebody says, you know what, I'll be the person for this.
That's awesome. I mean, my goal, I think ultimately, as like right now, you know, my list of goals, I want to have multiple apartment complexes.
You are gonna have them.
Exactly.
I know you are.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I received
Because
that.
you believe that you're going to do it, and you're just going to do it based on your belief, and it's just getting yourself closer to the people that are already doing it, so then that way you can find out how you can purchase more of these deals.
Exactly. And I wanted to leave off on this note because I like to dream. I always used to get in trouble back when I was in sports because I would daydream just about ideas and things
Yeah.
like that, and I never really honed in on, or excuse me, as I got older, I really never gave myself that, I guess you would call it, that creative energy. Like I just didn't believe in myself to dream or have those dreams. So there was a certain point where I kind of developed that, but I like asking people like, hey, what's your dream? Like, I want to think bigger than here and now.
My dream is to own a lot of multifamily, and up in the future, if I get to the level that I want to get to, is I want to be able to give more to the community in a sense of like giving more back to the people that are disadvantaged.
Mm.
I want to help the teenagers that grew up like me. I want people to believe in them, and I want them to have the resources there in front of them that it's okay to be different. It's okay to have ADHD. It's okay to not be good at math. It's okay to not be a good student. You might just be an entrepreneur like me. And I want to start like entrepreneur academies or give back to like, you know, and I've already been giving back in a sense of like information, but I want to give back in a different way. And that's the ultimate goal. But for now, it's just slowly just becoming a better person myself. So that way, eventually I can become that person that I want to become.
Awesome.
It's like meeting what my true potential is supposed to be.
Trying to reach it.
It's like kind of like, you know, we all have this potential, and it's like trying to reach who we were destined to become, right?
Ed Milet talks about that. Like his biggest thing that scared him was dying one day and God telling him like, hey, this is where you were supposed to be.
Yeah, and that's where I get it from.
Okay.
Listening to Ed Milet, I thought that was genius because I never was able to explain it to someone. So when he explained it,
You're like,
that's when I go, that's the vision is like, why aren't we trying to become a better version of ourselves? Like, I mean, we're gonna live anyways. So it's like every day, why don't we just try to improve ourselves just a little bit more? Well, not drastically, but just a little bit more every day, so then eventually we can become the best version of ourselves. That's what life should be about.
100%. I think that might even be the title of this episode. I'll let that marinate. But Alex, thank you, brother, for taking the time, making some time to be on my podcast. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I spoke to. I just get.
Honestly,
I forgot that we were on camera.
Yeah,
and I'm like, man.
And that's what I go for. For those listening, like that's what I go for. If you're paying attention and you're watching this interview right now, like sometimes, most of the time, I forget that the camera's rolling. I have to check, like I did a little while ago, you know. But I want to bring that people element to the online world. Like we see all of these videos all the time, and sometimes it's easy to idolize other. Like I'm guilty of it too, watching people that I look up to, and idolizing them and thinking sometimes like I'm not there. But it shouldn't be like that.
No,
you should
we all
take
start
it
somewhere.
Exactly.
It's just every day is a progress and a mission. Just get on a mission so that eventually you can get there. But tell yourself, I'm on a mission to get there. But if you're never on a mission, then you're not going to get there.
It's the set of the sail, Jim Rohn. I don't know if you're a big Jim Rohn fan or
I don't.
No,
I've heard of him, but I haven't got on.
There's one thing that he says. It's like the wind of adversity blows on us all, but it's all dependent on your sail. Like if you're in a boat, you're gonna get somewhere, but if you don't set your sail, you're gonna just go somewhere.
Yeah.
There will be a destination for you. It's not gonna be what you desire, basically.
And I mean, it's business might not be for everybody. Maybe you
100%.
don't care about that, but you should be on a mission to be a better husband. Be on a mission to be a better wife. Be on a mission to be better to your kids. Give them all the stuff that you wanted to know about, but you never knew. You might know more in a sense of all the things that your parents didn't get a chance to teach you. So we don't have to give them money or toys. We can give them information of what we should have known when we were younger.
And that's, what I aim to do also with the podcast is like, there's so many people like I was growing up, kind of like what you were saying, exactly. It's like, I feel like I wish I would have had somebody like me growing up telling me, hey, Steph, like, you need help doing this. But I didn't have that. And I thank God that I didn't, because I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today.
Exactly.
But Alex, thanks again, brother.
Thank you.
For shooting this episode. Always remember, guys, embrace now, doubt kills, and live your legacy.